Well, we've got the pleasure of being joined by Sam James Johnson. Thank you so much for coming on the Design and Gig podcast. Cheers and a very warm welcome to you.
No, thanks for having me, mate. Really appreciate it.
Nice one. So, for anyone who hasn't heard of you and hasn't heard the kind of music that you play, describe that a little bit.
Oh, I don't know. I find it quite hard to explain, really. I'd say, like, the simple answer is probably Britpop, kind of like indie rock. I think the main thing for me is definitely the lyrics. I mean, like, when I write songs, I don't really like writing songs which don't have no meanings and they're kind of just, like, a load of gibberish. For me, like, every song that I write, I like to have a bit of a story behind and a bit of a meaning and something that, you know, people can take from it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's good. A lot of singer-songwriters tend to have that and portray that emotion through these certain lyrics. What would you say are your musical influences?
Well, like, just going back to, like, the whole Britpop thing, like, for me, it's just a lot of British bands that I've listened to throughout the years. So, like, obviously, like the obvious ones, like Oasis and the Stone Roses, bands like the Arctic Monkeys and the Enemy. I think that's about it, really. Yeah, just good British rock songs, you know what I mean? And even, like, going right back into, like, the 60s stuff, like, obviously the Beatles, like, I don't know, like, we probably won't be sitting here if it weren't for the Beatles and, like, the Small Faces. And it's just good songs, really, you know what I mean?
You've said that you enjoy writing your own tunes and a real meaning behind that. You can really hear that in your new single, Another World. It's released during quarantine. Tell us what that's all about.
Yeah, so with that one, that's a really old song, actually. I wrote that back in about, like 2014, something like that. But that's a proper old one that I kind of just forgot about. And we was in the studio last year and we was kind of like going through songs that we could probably work on. And that one sort of just sprung to mind. It was like, might be a good time to like go back and revisit it. And we did it. And like, I was so happy with how it come out. It's such a chill tune, you know what I mean? And it weren't really going to be a single, that one. It was actually going to be a B-side to the up-and-coming single, which was meant to be coming out. But obviously, it got delayed, like everything else in lockdown, and I thought it might be a good time just to put it out there. You know, I think it's got to come out at some point. So, yeah, why not just, like, release it and just see what people think.
I mean, I really think it's good. I don't think it's, B-side worthy, but it's good to keep that momentum. Do you have a lot of back catalogue that you want to put out?
Well, I met a producer early last year called Erin, and he is like a musical genius. And he a mate of mine put me in touch with him, and I sent him over some demos, and he wanted to get working on them. And he's the one that's produced all the songs that I've done at the moment. And we literally was just on a roll last year. We done about like 7 tunes last year from scratch to finished masters, and so there's a lot of music there. So yeah, it will come out at some point, but when that is, I don't know. Yeah, like, there's definitely a lot of music out there that will be coming out at some point.
And are you looking to do a tour, like row of gigs to kind of promote these new old tracks that you've recorded?
Yeah, well, that was going to be like my main priority for this year. So last year was very much recording based. So I've managed to get a few songs under my belt. And the main priority at the beginning of this year was to kind of like get maybe like a few gigs lined up and see where I could take it, and hopefully get like a backing band as well, because as much as I enjoy playing the songs acoustically, I think having a band behind them would really like bring them out so much more. Obviously that's been delayed as well, so we're sort of just like looking into next year really, just to see just see if we can do anything next year.
No one told me there'd be days like this.
Well, I was going to touch on your live shows and your live performances, because I bet they must be quite intimate experiences between yourself and the audience, because it is just you. Do you ever feel like you need that band behind you?
I mean, I do love playing acoustically, and I think, yeah, you're right, there definitely is that kind of vibe when you do play them acoustically, but I think sometimes if you want to try and venture out into like bigger venues, just having that band behind it would just give it that extra push, you know what I mean, which maybe like playing it acoustically won't. But to be fair, like, I've never actually played any of my tunes with a band before, so I don't know. I mean, it might sound rubbish, you know what I mean, but it'd be a nice thing to do.
Yeah, do you reckon that would bring a new element to the sounds of your song?
I mean, like, especially like songs I've done like 9 to 5 and stuff like that. I mean, even when I've like played them in past as just like acoustically. I always do think in the back of my mind, like, oh, if there was a band behind it here, I think you get people's attention a little bit more, maybe.
I was going to touch on 9 to 5. How did you film that? Because the music video looks super awesome, and obviously there's so much of a message behind it as well. You couldn't kind of not film it in that way?
Yeah, so with that one, Ariam, who I mentioned before, who produced the song, he also did the video as well. And it's filmed in an industrial estate in southeast London. And we filmed it really early. It was literally done about 8:30 in the morning. I thought, industrial estate, sort of middle of nowhere, it's bound to be dead quiet. We can sort of get all the shots we want to do down there and stuff like that. Literally, we got down there and it was like Piccadilly Circus. It was like the M25. There was just like cars wouldn't stop coming past. There was people beeping like at the cars' windows and stuff like that. It was an absolute nightmare. But yeah, like the actual video itself, I was over the moon with and edited it as well. And yeah, I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Like what we did with it, it looks great.
What's the meaning behind 9 to 5?
For me, anyway, it was just about having a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday job and just being sick of it really, and just wanting to just have a bit more out of life. And I'm quite surprised actually, because when I released that song, I got messages from people like all around the world, like people from like Argentina, people from Italy saying, oh, like they can really relate to the song, which I just found bizarre, you know what I mean? Literally like living in a completely different country to me, like places that I've never been to in my life, saying that they can relate to the lyrics is just madness.
Yeah, what would you say is the audience's favourite song of yours?
I say it's got to be 9 to 5. Like every time like they pull that one out of the bag at like open mics and stuff like that, that's the one that people sort of like turn their heads to, and that's the one that sort of people show like the most attention to on social media and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's got to be that one.
You actually came on and did a live performance with ourselves a couple of weeks ago. Do you feel like quarantine's made you more productive, or was it quite a nice welcome break from actually having to do your music all the time?
I think it's definitely given me like a lot more time to be creative. You kind of find yourself with not a lot to do, so like it's like perfect time to pick up the guitar and write some songs really. And I thought I would have written an album's worth of material by now, but I've only done one song so far. It's been good to see other musicians as well be creative, and people like yourself doing like the podcast and the open mic nights and stuff like that. So it's been good to actually do like gigs from home and actually have an audience watching them as well. And it's been weird, like from this whole lockdown situation, I've actually virtually met like a lot of creative people and a lot of other musicians as well, which I probably wouldn't have met if it weren't for this situation. So it's bizarre.
In terms of fashion, I've seen you in a lot of Fred Perry, a lot of smart clothes and stuff. Do you feel like fashion's important in line with your music?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been into my clothes from day one, really, and I think, like, especially like the music that I do and the bands that I go to, you sort of, like, it almost becomes, like, a bit of a uniform, doesn't it? To be wearing, like, that certain sort of clothes. But, yeah, it's just the clothes that I've always been into, even before I started making music, you know what I mean? I was always sort of wearing, like, gear like that. Got, like, literally, like, a whole wardrobe, like, full of Fred Perrys and, like, pretty green tops and stuff like that. So, yeah, like, it's just the clothes that I feel comfortable in, really, and stuff that I like wearing.
I will show you.
In terms of new material, are you going to treat your fans to an EP or a couple more singles? What's going on?
Yeah, so there was meant to be a new single coming out earlier this year. Obviously, it got delayed. I'm hoping to release it at some point later on this year. So we're sort of in talks at the moment about getting a video shot for it. We're sort of looking for that maybe like August time. Hopefully, if it's all safe to do it, we'll get that shot and then hopefully have a single out at the end of the year.
Nice, that's something exciting for everyone to look forward to. And if they want to see that as well, where's best in terms of social media?
To be honest, the only ones I really kind of check daily would be the Instagram and the Facebook page. So if you can give me a follow on Instagram, which is instagram.com/SamJamesJohnson or facebook.com/SamJamesJohnsonMusic. Yeah, they'll be the best places. All the stuff that I put up is on there. And yeah, you'll be able to see like all the live stuff and all that as well, all the live streams and stuff, new singles and all of it from there, really, yeah.
Coming towards the end of the podcast, I always like to ask a couple of curveball questions, some fun questions, just to really get you thinking.
Yeah, go on.
If you were to headline, for example, a massive festival like Glastonbury, if you could headline with any artist, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
It's got to be the Beatles. Got to be the Beatles, and the reason being, it's just, I don't think, look, there needs to be a reason for that. It's just the Beatles, isn't it? I mean, if I was there, I don't think I'd be doing much playing. I'd just be, like, standing there, like, just with my tongue sticking out my head, you know what I mean? But, like...
So if you could ban any song from ever being recorded and produced and put out, what song would you ban?
Do you know what? I literally thought about this morning, because I had it in my head when I woke up. you remember that song? I don't even know the name of it, but do you remember that song a few years back? And it kind of went, once when I was 7 years old.
Yeah, you banned that.
I hate that song. I hate that song.
Such aggression towards that.
Yeah, that shouldn't even be me banning that song. That song should be banned anyway.
Just too catchy for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to know as well, what was the first single you ever bought with your own money?
I'll tell you what it was. How old would I be? I must have only been about like 11 or something like that. And it was The Darkness, Love Is Only a Feeling. Do you remember that tune?
Yeah.
And I bought it in a Woolworths as well.
Oh, bringing back the memories here.
Proper, like, show my age here.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, for a couple of the younger viewers, listeners, they might not even actually know what a Woolworths is, but to go in and actually buy a single from Woolworths, it was always, it was like bargain hunting. It was like eBay for, actual shops that you walk into. So that must have been a cracking find in there.
That was great. I knew I wanted it as well, because I remember I was like a big fan of them when I was a kid. It must have only cost about like £4 or something like that, and I was literally saving up to get it. Like, saving up £4, yeah. And I remember like going into Woolworths. I was with my nan and granddad, yeah. They took me to Woolworths, and then we went and bought that single. I remember I played it non-stop for about a year, and I still actually quite like the tune as well. I still think it's a good tune.
Nice one. Thank you so much, Sam, for coming on the Designer Gig podcast.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much.